You're listening to the Geek Watch Podcast, Episode 70. Easy come, easy go.
This is the Geek Watch Podcast with Brian Hatcher and Mandy Petrie.
Greetings, Geek Watchers, and welcome to Episode 70 of the Geek Watch Podcast. I'm Brian Hatcher, and with me, as always, Geek Watch's own resident geek goddess, Mandy Petrie.
Hello, Brian.
Well, today we've got some comings and some goings. We've got some movie news and 3 new things that have popped up this week that we can talk about. But let's start out with, there was an announcement Netflix made on June the 3rd that they're going to be doing a new series with the Russo brothers of Avengers fame. They are going to be doing an anime series based off of Magic the Gathering, the card game.
Okay.
So, Have you ever played Magic?
I have not, but I've heard, people talk about it, that it was basically kind of a more rules, Dungeons and Dragons, or Dungeons and Dragons, but with cards. Like Pokemon and Dungeons and Dragons had a baby.
Yeah.
And that's Magic the Gathering.
Well, I'll tell you, the way that I played Magic since the first edition, which now makes me sound old, I've always described Magic the Gathering, it was the card game created for people who you hated playing D&D with. Basically, the people that were the rules lawyers who were trying to find ways of getting past the rules. That is the crux of what Magic the Gathering is. Every card has a little rule, and it acts a certain way. And what good players in Magic the Gathering do is they figure out how to crack the rules. What card can I play with this card that I can get rid of the disadvantage playing that card has? And so the people that I find are the best at playing Magic the Gathering are the ones that you hated playing D&D with, because they're constantly going through the rule books, trying to figure out a way to mini-max their character. Magic the Gathering is definitely in the wheelhouse. But the thing about it is, as the card games went on and you got new additions and they have expansions, they started tying story into the expansions. And then you started seeing recurring characters in the cards, and so and they started writing novels based off of the off of it. So they created this story around these card game, and Russo brothers are huge fans of Magic the Gathering. They've been playing it, I think, probably about as long as I've been playing it.
Well, excellent, because I know when they finally did make a Dungeons and Dragons movie, that it was not what a Dungeons and Dragons movie should have been.
Right. Because
I don't know who put it together, if they had ever even played it, but I'm glad that, Magic is going to have that kind of drive behind it. Like, I would rather see, Joe Manganiello do, or Vin Diesel put together a Dungeons and Dragons movie. That would, because they're patrons of the game, and they know it. So good for them. Good for the Russos.
Yeah, if you don't, and designed as an anime, it's going to look amazing. And of course, the Russo brothers, fantastic directors and producers. And I mean, what they've been able to accomplish with the Avengers movies, has been next level. And like you say, the fact that they're fans of the game and are familiar with the backstory and wanting to explore that backstory, I think this is going to be amazing. Something else that piqued my interest is I saw a teaser trailer for a new Amazon series called Carnival Row. And basically, it's going to be coming out August the 30th, so we're going to be seeing it pretty soon.
Oh, wow.
So basically where this came from...
That's just a few days away.
August the 30th?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's just like 2 months. It seems like, whatever's going on would have had a little bit more lead up to this. We knew about Good Omens for almost a year. Right. And now Amazon's like, oh, we've got this coming out.
Yeah, we got this thing popping up. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one thing I've noticed is usually a lot of the stuff that comes up for them tends to be a little bit more of a surprise. You don't get a lot of lead in. They wait until they've got something solid. And maybe that's because with them being a bit new to this game, they want to make sure they got something really good and solid before they announce it. But actually, this has been around for a while because Guillermo del Toro was planning on making this into a movie. This was going to be a movie, but it spent 13 years in development hell, basically. So after that, basically, they decided let's make this as a series. And the problem, unfortunately, was that Del Toro now he's he has commitments now where he can't really be involved in the series. And so Paul McGuire and John Amiel are going to be taking over as directors and showrunners for the show. Basically, what the show is going to be about, you have Orlando Bloom playing the role of a detective in this noir Victorian tinged city called Burgue, where basically humans and fairies and other creatures coexist. So it's sort of like a Victorian magical realism type.
Oh, I was thinking like Sherlock, Jack the Ripper kind of.
Well, there's definitely a Sherlock Holmes, Jack the Ripper type of vibe to this because, of course, Orlando Bloom plays a detective, and he's basically investigating a serial killer who preys on mystical creatures. And according to the description, as he continues in his investigation, he becomes the prime suspect for the murders. So,
okay.
and Orlando Bloom is in this. Cara Delevingne, who was also in the teaser trailer, she's described as a fairy refugee. So there's not an awful lot of a lot more detail about what this show is about, which, I don't mind that at all. I don't want to know everything going into it. But, I mean, we've been talking about a lot of these, taking fantasy worlds and kind of twisting them. There's been a lot of those. I mean, we talked...
Yeah. Onward is coming out, and Bright.
The second, they're coming out with a part 2 of that.
Yes, which I'm excited about. I know, it had a lot of mixed feelings, but which I love. And True Blood, I look at those, being in the supernatural mundane, rather than the clandestine, which is where you get your Buffys and your Supernaturals and your Harry Potters. So, seeing supernatural mundane is exciting to me.
Yeah, well, we're getting a lot of fantasy-type movies and TV shows. I mean, Matt Groening in Enchanted. Disenchanted.
Yes.
We're seeing a lot of that now. And, I mean, to my mind, I think Harry Potter many years ago led into... That was the beginning of this fantasy renaissance that we're seeing now. And of course, we're getting Dune very soon, which is sort of a fantasy sci-fi.
Yeah, kind of the perfect storm of it. Yeah, and I can see like the late 90s, early 2000s kind of had a bit of a sci-fi renaissance to it. Not only had we started doing the however you felt about the Star Wars movies, the new Star Wars movies were coming out. Oh, TV, Battlestar Galactica, and all the Star Treks, and it was really Farscape, of course. A lot of sci-fi had sort of a rebirth at that time. So now I think, we're kind of swinging the other way. Then we can get these perfect balances with Dune, and I love it.
Oh, yeah.
I am so excited about it.
I'm certainly waiting on that. Now, I also saw an article on the Joe Blow website. They were talking about an interview that Sigourney Weaver did with Parade magazine. And it seems like she was indicating that she was going to be in Ghostbusters 3. With Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray, that they were also going to be making appearances in Ghostbusters 3. And apparently, Sigourney Weaver is going to be playing Dana Barrett, so she's going to be bringing that character back.
That's very exciting. And let's see, I guess, 1989, I guess her son, Oscar, would be, an adult now, and maybe he could be a part of the kids' lives that are going to sort of be the leads of this new Ghostbuster movie.
Yeah, of course, take that with a grain of salt. Nobody's really said anything direct about this, so she may have been misinterpreted. I don't know. I didn't get a chance to read the Parade article, but it would be interesting to see that. Now, some people were kind of doubting this a bit because they're like, Bill Murray's going to be involved? It's like, how do you get Bill Murray involved in a Ghostbusters movie? But I think under the circumstances, I think with a good script, I think that he would be interested in it. And he's not going to have to do any heavy lifting in this movie because the original team is going to be referred to, but they're not going to be the main characters. So
maybe we can get Wes Anderson in to do Ghostbusters, and then Bill Murray will come along with him.
There you go. There's a plan. Now, speaking of rumors, Geeks Worldwide, their website, they said that they talked to some people in Marvel, and they couldn't give a whole lot of detail, and they said this was a rumor also, but they have reason to believe, they said, that we may see a new Fantastic Four movie by 2022.
Okay.
And they also said that Ant-Man director Peyton Reed is really interested in directing, and that he's had a take on the Fantastic Four forever. In fact, he's been talking to Kevin Feige forever about it. And as someone who's a big fan of the Ant-Man film, the first Ant-Man film, I would love to see what he would do with the Fantastic Four. And apparently, Peyton Reed is really interested in picking it up. Now, again, this is a rumor. Take it with a grain of salt. Because I would be surprised if we saw a Fantastic Four film that early, because 2022 is not that far away.
Now, when is Black Widow supposed to come out? Because if the rumors are true about Ben Grimm being a part of Black Widow...
Well, that'd be 2021. Or 2020, I should say.
So we'd have to have that before we got the Fantastic Four to establish... Bringing the Fantastic Four into...
Yeah, assuming that the Dave Harbour part is, in fact, Ben Grimm. We don't know that, of course. Again, that we talked about that in another podcast and that rumor. But yeah, that's very possible. So if that pans out, maybe we will see Fantastic Four in 2022, but we'll see. I did see online Patty Jenkins release some pictures from the new Wonder Woman film, including Gal Gadot's new Wonder Woman uniform. It's all armor, gold armor. It looks great, actually.
Yeah.
And so she's, of course, since Wonder Woman is still some distance away, of course, keeping the interest going. But the new armor, I mean, she looks pretty awesome. I mean, she looks definitely soldier in it.
So we should be getting some 3D printed costumes here pretty soon.
I would think so, definitely. But speaking of Wonder Woman, just this week, Linda Carter got her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Oh, yay for Linda Carter.
Yeah, that was a long time coming. I'm glad that finally happened. And, of course, Patty Jenkins had some really nice things to say about Linda Carter. And, I mean, Linda Carter, she's like 66 and doesn't show, does not show her age at all.
Nope.
But I mean, she was a forerunner, certainly, in the female superhero. I mean, she's a lot of people's first memories of Wonder Woman. Is who I mean, that and Super Friends are pretty much it.
Right.
But, I mean, basically heading a female-led superhero show on television and becoming a part of the canon in a real sense. She was a forerunner for a lot of the stuff that we're getting in movies today. So it was a long time coming, but definitely I'm glad to see that it finally happened. Going into rumor, we've been talking about a lot of great things that have been happening that we are getting now. We're going to have to talk about some things that are going away. And this is a major, major rumor. I wouldn't even call it a rumor. I would call it speculation. But it's a speculation that when I read the article, I was thinking, okay, well, this makes sense. I'm not happy about it, but it makes sense. But I read this article by Sandy C. She's a reporter for Fansided. And her speculation, her suggestion is that Stranger Things was probably going to end after season 4. That, of course, the new season's coming out July 4th, so very soon. And, of course, they're heavily promoted. There's all this stuff coming out, and I mean, Coke and Baskin Robbins and all that stuff. But she's speculating that after season 4, it's going to be over. And the reason she believes this, she said she probably would have said it's probably going to end after season 3, except that the directors have been saying, oh, we're definitely getting a season 4. We've already got it planned. It's definitely going to happen. But her reason for believing that they're going to end this, even though the show is extremely popular and doing well for Netflix, is that a lot of their shows that are extremely popular and do well get 3 to 4 seasons and then they're gone. It's like they don't tend to survive, and she's not wrong about that. I mean,
well, see, I was thinking that there was an interview with the Duffer Brothers at one point of time, and they said that they couldn't go that long because these kids should move out of this town. Is pretty much what they said. They should leave.
Yeah, eventually they're going to age out of their roles. Certainly.
Well, no, because Hawking is apparently a terrible, terrible place to live. There's these evil monsters that pop up every year, and they're doing experiments on children in this town. So why do they still live here?
Yeah.
You know, why hasn't Joyce packed up her boys and moved out? Why have they stayed here? So that was kind of what came to my mind.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at shows like all the Netflix Marvel shows that ended after 3 seasons. I mean, we're getting the last season of Jessica Jones is getting ready to come up here soon. And
Lucifer was just announced. It's only getting 1 more season.
Right. And the Santa Clarita Diet was canceled. you know, and it was extremely popular.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to wonder, it's like, why it is that Netflix, they seem to keep cutting the legs out from under themselves when they get a great series that people are enjoying and are doing very well, then suddenly they cancel them. Which I'm going to segue to something, you know, why are they killing themselves? It's not as bad as what DC TV streaming service just did.
Oh no.
They did something. This is crazy. When I read this, I couldn't believe it. But they just started their Swamp Thing miniseries. You've heard about this. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They've already aired the pilot episode, which people just loved.
Awesome.
I haven't had a chance to see it yet. But everybody who's seen it, they said, this is amazing. This is a great combination of horror and sci-fi, and there's a bit of a love story in there, and it's great. So wonderful, in fact, that they've already announced they're canceling the show. After
great.
They've shown one episode, and they've already said, we're canceling it.
Didn't that pretty much happen to Firefly? But, you know, that's the age-old complaint, so...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's like they haven't even shown the entire season yet, and they're already saying, nope, we're done.
Wow.
How? I mean, what? Really?
Mm-hmm.
And from what I've heard is one of the reasons, or at least the main reason why they're planning on canceling this show is because they're not sure if they want to make it a love story, and some of the producers want it to be more of a love story. Some of the other producers want it to be straight horror, and they can't agree on it. So they're like, we're just not going to do any more of it. We'll run this season and we'll just kill it, which doesn't make any sense to me at all. It's like, look, just let it be what it is. Produce the show as you're producing it. Don't worry about what box you're supposed to fit this thing in, and just let it be what it is. But there's a lot of weird rumors going on with the DC streaming service. I heard somewhere that Warner Brothers is wanting to create their own streaming service, and they're going to cancel the DC service, and they're going to kind of just meld it in with, which I can understand the logic behind that, because with Disney Plus, I mean, you get all the Marvel stuff, but you're getting everything else. And so Warner Brothers might feel like they want to bolster the streaming service. Why have two services when you can put them together as one?
Yeah.
And
as the consumer, I can see that too.
Yeah, definitely. You pay for one thing. But I know a lot of people who are big fans of the DC service that are worried about that, because it's like, you know, DC being by itself, you know, is pretty cool, and they're coming out with great content like the Titans, which I know a lot of people have said a lot of great things about that. I got to see the first episode of Doom Patrol, and it was amazing.
Oh, was it? Okay, good.
Oh, it was. Well, they showed it for free on YouTube, and I think it's still available out there, so you can watch it. Great stuff. And I know some people, and knowing Warner Brothers, I can see where that fear would come from, that if it goes under the auspices of Warner Brothers totally, that they're going to muck around with it too much. Whether they'll even show more episodes of it, or feel like, no, some of these shows are just too far out there, especially Doom Patrol. They'll probably look at that and go, that's just too weird. It's not a good fit for the channel, so we're not going to put any more of it out. So they're just worried that Warner Brothers is just going to muck around with it too much. And I can definitely see that. So one other piece of people leaving that we're going to have to talk about. If you've not read the Walking Dead comics, skip ahead a few minutes, because there is a major spoiler.
Oh, yes.
Walking Dead 192 was released, and since they did it on the TV show, I guess they decided, let's do it in the comics. They killed Rick Grimes.
No, they didn't kill Rick Grimes in the TV show. Remember, Magic Helicopter. Yes, I did read about that. That's that there was a cliffhanger that he was laying in a bloody bed, and then so we didn't know. Then boom, next one comes out, and Carl has to shoot him.
Yeah.
So.
And I know that Robert Kirkman, he put a letter to the fans at the end of the comic saying, look, guys, don't think that the TV show made me do this. We've been planning this for a long time. In fact, the character who shot and killed Rick Grimes, she said, we knew when I first introduced that character, I knew that we were going to do this. I introduced, basically he is the son of the woman who used to run the Commonwealth, and Rick Grimes takes over as leader of the Commonwealth. And so you had this great moment of hope. Things are going to get better. And the son's like, no, you jerk, I'm going to kill you, and basically shoots him. And so Yeah.
It's kind of like the death of Superman in the horror comic genre.
I don't think a helicopter's coming this time. Now here's something. I will say this. I did see parts of the first episode of this season of Fear the Walking Dead. I didn't watch the whole thing. I was just kind of half watching it because I don't really watch the show. There were some soldier characters that looked like they'd come out of the comics, but one thing about them is they, besides the fact they had guns and walkie-talkies, they also had this interesting symbol that we saw the last time I saw it. It was painted on the side of a helicopter that took Rick Grimes away. That trigram symbol. So apparently they're gonna use Fear the Walking Dead to introduce that group in a big way, and so we'll probably learn more about them and possibly the fate of Rick Grimes, who these people are that took Rick Grimes in Fear the Walking Dead. So that intrigues me a little bit more to watch the show. But I noticed that, and I just thought, especially with Rick Grimes and people wondering what the heck's he been up to and what happened to him. Answering those questions in Fear the Walking Dead, I think, is gonna, for people who don't watch the show like myself, now kind of intrigues me a little bit to delve into the show. So, well, let's end the show. There's a few things that came out this week, TV-wise, that I wanted to talk about. Of course, we mentioned last week that Good Omens came out, and I did, in fact, binge watch the entire series on Sunday.
I only got like halfway through. I didn't get very far. So
you're about at the halfway point now. We're not going to talk spoilers because if you've not seen this, you definitely need to see this, and I wouldn't want to spoil a bit of it. So, but what do you think about it so far?
Oh, it's perfect. It is, it's exactly like I was expecting it to be, from the book. It's just different enough to, have updated into a more modern time, and perfect casting. And like even watching interviews with the cast talk about how perfect it is. But there's a couple different interviews, and one like Neil Gaiman talking about, he got this question of make Terry Pratchett proud, and he said that's pretty much what our entire goal has been,
right?
Is making Terry Pratchett proud. And to do an ADHD moment, someone asked him about Sandman. It's like, we get Good Omens, why can't we get Sandman? And he said it hasn't been about getting a good Sandman. He says, I've spent 20 years keeping a bad Sandman from happening.
Yeah.
He said that almost happened several times, and I've worked against it. But even you can just tell the production and the cast and everyone is just so excited to be a part of this.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And I mean, all the performances have been amazing. I mean, honestly, I can't wait for you to
finish it. Yeah,
to finish it, because there's so many things I want to talk to you about.
Yeah, I mean, even the little tiny characters we only get for like 2 minutes. I mean, it's still like, yes, I love that person. I love that character, and I can't wait. If I do get more of that character, awesome. I can't wait. If not, still great. Awesome. Love that.
Oh, yeah. And, if you learned anything from it, don't mess with a witch, because they're BA. They are definitely OP.
Yeah.
And that entire scene, I don't even want to go into any more than that, but that entire scene was amazing, and it was a great swerve.
Well, as a fun little factoid about myself is that the character of Agnes Nutter, the witch, is based on a real character a real person who was killed on Pendle Hill, Alice Nutter, and I am a descendant of Alice Nutter. Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
One of my great grandmother was, of course, she dies in a different way in the book and the series,
right?
But than the way that she died in real life.
Right.
But she was executed as a witch.
Yeah, but so I love this series. I can't wait to watch it again to catch certain parts of it that.
Yeah, I haven't even been looking for all the Doctor Who references and Easter eggs that we're supposed to be looking for, because I've just been watching the show.
Yeah, I mean, I caught a few of them. I certainly didn't catch all of them, but it's just so well crafted.
Yes. Here's a spoiler, but it's the very first thing that comes out, so automatically is that not only has got a woman, but she has an American accent. Yeah. I could not believe that they did that.
Oh, yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, using God as the chorus for the story, I thought was wonderful.
Right.
A literal omniscient narrator, which is amazing and great. And I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the show. I don't necessarily know if you would want to do a second season of it to come up with a sequel. I don't know if, as much as I enjoyed the show, sometimes, one is enough.
Mm-hmm.
And even though there's stuff there's stuff in the show that I could see them carrying it on.
Okay.
But I don't know. It's just so perfect. I would hate to tamper with it. As good as Neil Gaiman is, I mean, the combination of Neil Gaiman and Sir Terry Pratchett was just, it was magic.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've not seen the show, definitely see this show. It's just incredible.
Well, if you want more of it, maybe we'll get that stage play or stage musical that Michael Sheen and David Tennant wanted, that you were talking about.
Oh, yeah.
They wanted.
Yeah, that they'd love to see it as a stage play and switch off as characters. One play, the angel and the other play the demon, and take turns with it, which I think would be incredible.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. That's what you do. Don't make a second season. Just do the first season over and have
again.
them,
Yeah,
and
switch
just
it
have
out.
them, and have them switch the characters.
Right.
That would be amazing. I would love to see that. But what also came out this week, Sunday, we got episode 1 of Nosferatu.
Yes.
The Joe Hill.
Oh, I'm very excited about it. I haven't got to see it, but yes, I'm so excited about it.
One thing I'll say about it, this was my 1-2, because of course I spent most of Sunday watching Good Omens, and then I saw the first episode of Nosferatu. One thing I liked about it is the characters are definitely blue collar. The type of characters you don't necessarily see take the forefront of a lot of television or even movies. They are real people cut from real cloth, and I found that refreshing, especially with superhero movies. We tend to see the spectacular, the nearly godlike, and we don't see a lot of just normal people struggling with everyday problems take the forefront. So I definitely enjoyed that, and of course, the acting was amazing as you would expect it to be.
Right.
I will say that episode 1 is kind of a slow burn. It spent a lot of time introducing characters.
Okay.
I would suspect that things are going to pick up after a while, but yeah, I mean that.
Like in interviews and appearances and things like that I have seen, I haven't seen a young Vic. Now, I think you had told me that they do start off with her as a child.
Well, they start off with her teenager, I think.
Okay, all right.
So,
because having read the book, and it starts off with her as a child, and you see her grow up. So that's something that I hadn't seen in any of the interviews. So I didn't know if they were going straight into it to skip the part of her as a child and just go into her as an adult, or if they were actually going to spend the time.
Well, they basically have her. I think I would say like a senior in high school.
Okay.
And getting ready for college, and all the struggles of I want to be an artist, and her dad being follow your dreams. I didn't follow mine, but so don't make the mistake I made. Her mother going,
be practical,
and we can't afford to send you to college, so so you're gonna be vacuuming houses with me because of course we can't afford to send you to college and all that stuff. And I mean Zachary Quinto as Manx.
Yeah. Having read the book, I had always pictured in my head Steve Buscemi as Charlie Manx. But, I mean, this was more perfect. I mean, because the character of the way that they can do his makeup and change the way he looks. And he's always good at playing a villain. Oh, man, Zachary Quinto can play a villain. Oh, yeah. That charming villain.
Yeah.
In so many things that he's done, that charming villain.
And being able to play, this older character with makeup and then, play younger when he needs to. And the thing is, that type of a character is so tempting to chew the scenery up. And he has those moments where he's a little more bombastic, but he can be very subtle also.
Now tell me about the car, because the car is a character in itself.
Yes.
Is it everything you expected?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
I mean, you see the car, and you get to, most of the time you see Charlie Manx, he's driving the car, and he's got the little boy in the back going to Christmas Land. So you get that idea of this is not a good thing at all. And of course, the show ends with, oh, okay, this really isn't a good thing. So,
and I think that was brilliant on AMC's part to premiere this in the summer, because if they had released this at Christmas does sound good, but so much Christmas, and that was kind of the point of it, is come to Christmas Land where it's always Christmas and you always get candy canes and hot chocolate. But the little boy was like, well, sometimes I want a hot dog on the 4th of July, and just too much of Christmas is pretty much hell.
Yeah. Yeah. This show could very well make a Christmas in July. Give it the depth of hate that it deserves.
The misery, yes. This is the anti-Hallmark channel.
Well, AMC is good for doing that. We'll end up, I wanted to talk a little bit about Godzilla, King of the Monsters, which I saw this last weekend.
Fun.
It was a lot of fun. It was everything I wanted. Big kaiju fighting each other. I know it wasn't as successful in the theaters as one would have hoped. A lot of that had to do with a lot of the reviews. A lot of reviewers hated it. And they basically, a lot of the hate was directed at the human characters, because it's like, they're only there for explaining things and narration, and, they're really two-dimensionally drawn. They're not that deep. And I'm like, yes, so? It's very much like, I wouldn't complain about Papa John's because of the quality of their chicken wings. Okay. They have them. And, you can get them as a side for a pizza.
But I'm there for the pizza.
Yeah, you're there for the pizza. If you want chicken wings, go somewhere else. Go to Buffalo Wild Wings or something. I love great human drama, believe me. I enjoy those movies. But I don't go to Godzilla for that stuff. I go to Godzilla to see big honking monsters fight each other. And I got that. I got that in spades.
Did you get a giant turtle from space that flies on blue fire?
Oh, yeah, dude. We certainly... No, of course we didn't get that.
One day.
Yeah, one studio is going to have to buy another studio for that. But I would love
Which has not been unknown to happen.
Disney never happens.
Disney does it all the time.
It never happens. So... yeah, there you go. But I enjoyed it. Unfortunately, I think what hurt the film was a lot of the bad reviews for it. But again, bad reviews don't scare me off of a movie. And proof of that's going to be this weekend, because I'm probably going to go see Dark Phoenix. I don't have a lot of hope for it, but man, as of right now, of course, it started yesterday, and I've talked to some friends who've seen it. And so I am not expecting a whole lot out of it. The lowest rated Rotten Tomatoes score in any X-Men film ever. Yeah, I will talk about it. We'll talk about it next week. But if it's not as bad as people say it is, I mean, I'm not going to have any problem saying that.
I guess you'll have to compare it to Origins Wolverine. So.
Well, that's not exactly a bar you want to compare anything to. It's like, well, it's better than that. Well, it's also probably better than a colonoscopy. But I'm not, I don't really compare a lot of things that I do to that horrible experience. But it'll definitely be something to talk about next week. I hope I've got at least some good things to say about it. Like I said, I'm going in to enjoy it. I'm not going in to relishing tearing the movie apart, but if it deserves it, it's definitely going to get it. But tune in next week for that, folks. And so, with that said, we come to the end of episode 70 of the Geek Watch podcast. Thank you for listening, and tune in next week for the latest in geek news and views with the Geek Watch podcast. For Mandy Petrie, this is Brian Hatcher, reminding all the Geek Watchers out there, we're all geeky about something. Be proud of yours. See you next time. Thank you for listening to the Geek Watch podcast. If you enjoyed this program, don't forget to like and subscribe on your preferred platform and share this podcast on your social media. For links to all the ways you can listen to the Geek Watch podcast, as well as leave comments and suggestions, visit our website at geekwatch.net. The Geek Watch podcast is a Hanging J production.